Good afternoon, March 25th. This is Fabian for Winston Capital Advisors, covering the week of March 19 to March 23. Two big things happened last week. Well, more than two, but two big impacts. Facebook, one of the largest companies, and also the shadow, the threat of a trade war, which we'll discuss about that. Many other things to cover. We had Fed doing stuff, 20 latest, Uber, Chile and Argentina has some good numbers to talk about on the trade front, Brexit and NAFTA, and then we have some changes on the White House. So let's start first with Facebook. I mean, as you know, big scandal about compromise, but I think that this is a problem that's here to stay. We think this is a great opportunity to buy the stock. I'll give you some numbers later. But more importantly, we all know that they share our data. We all know that, we in the work and, somehow they use our data for marketing. Still, we use it. We share it with friends. We stay, with acquaintances, etc., etc. But here are the numbers. The company last year had $40 billion in revenue and made 60 of it. And last year, in 16, the year before, had $27 billion and $10 billion in profits. So a very profitable company. About 1.4 billion people do it daily, and at least 2.1 do it at least once a month. That 2.1 is a third of the planet, or the population of the planet. So there is no competition. You're not going away. And, yes, they will put some restrictions and regulations. The company is trading at 18 times forward earnings. I think it's a great opportunity. It only went down 10%, a lot of media coverage, a lot of noise, a lot of, political, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, yeah, it will be some Congress, presence by Mr. Zuckerberg, maybe some fines, but we think that it creates a great opportunity. Similarly, with the tariffs, the United States has a deficit of about $600 billion. 370 is with China, and the United States have announced that they will put the tariffs of up to 25% on 60 billion of that deficit, which is about 16% of the deficit. Still, we don't know what products are. There are 15 days for the products, and there are reviews. So like what we had with the steel and aluminum, maybe we put some tariff on something that's very small, and then we accepted a lot of the countries like NAFTA, European Union, and some other countries. My view is, remember, President Trump got together with Xi Jinping in May, I believe. They say that everything was well, that they're going to be working on getting things in good shape. However, it hasn't happened. And that's what I think President Trump is putting some pressure. They're talking about the issues of intellectual properties, which are very complex. I think that also here is the issue of open your market to us. I mean, you cannot, as a bank, open a company in China without a partner, and you're in the minority. And that's for the most part of the financial sector, insurance sector, and others. So I think that opening is probably what President Trump is looking after. Again, this is a little bit of a noise, which clearly affected the markets. Most indices were down 6% last week. But again, I think that if anything, will be an opportunity to buy. I don't think that President Trump wants the economy to do badly and decelerate. That will cost him votes, and I think he's very, conscious of that issue. So, in both cases, yes, the market took us by surprise. We lost some money, but I think in both cases is positive. Also, I'm just going to jump into the other issue. President Trump is being slowly getting more successes. We've had, the new tax laws. He changed many of the executive orders that President Obama had issued, and this was a campaign promise that he made. And we had changes in the White House. Gary Cohn left. Larry Kudlow came in. John Bolton, a guy who's perceived as a hawk, he's replacing McMaster as National Security Advisor. He was ambassador of George W. Bush to the United Nations. And he's a guy that's been very vocal against the Iran nuclear deal and also against any negotiations with Korea in which we do too many concessions. So I think, in a way, President Trump feels more secure in his position. His popularity has gone up in the latest polls, so he might be, getting himself more into some of these campaign promises. I believe again, this thing is not going to escalate too much out of control. I could be wrong, but because of that, I'm more of a buyer than anything else. We had the Fed; it raised rates 1.5 to 175. Most of the market believes that there are two more rates left, which will put us in 2 and an 8. And the Fed said that they are very happy with the strength of the economy, the low level of unemployment, and so far they have no worries or no evidence of inflation. Like always, they were very mindful to say that they will be, looking at the numbers, and things could change if the numbers change. But so far, they've been okay. Remember, we had a lot of numbers in the last couple of weeks, especially on PPI, CPI, and they all came very, very weak, very modest, and not only in the US, but also in Europe and Japan. So it looks like all this global growth so far is not creating price pressures. We have a G20 finance ministers meeting in Buenos Aires. Nothing happened, a lot of expectation, but not much. We had a fatal accident by Uber. Someone was killed last week. My view on that is like, all this self-driving could work eventually on highways when you don't have people running around. Everything is, there is no stoplights. Everything is in a line. There, eventually, we could do something. I don't think that we will have self-driving cars in cities with people, kids, bicycles, messengers coming and going anytime soon. We might have some tests, but I think we're far away. The technology still, I think it's not there. It's way too expensive. On the numbers, two good numbers. One in Chile, GDP for the Q4 came at 3.3. The market was expecting 2.9. Remember, we like the Chilean market a lot, especially the stock market. Consumer confidence and investor confidence has been going up in Chile, so we like that. ECH is the ETF that we like. Also, Argentina Q4 came at 3.9. The market was expected 3.6. And if you look in the last 3 quarters, Argentina GDP has been rapidly accelerating. Some people are worried that still President Macri is running too big of a deficit, too much of debt. But, we like it. We think that, the momentum is there. He has victories, in the chambers behind his back. So I think that he will be more proactive. And, again, we're positive there. On the deal front, or the big deal front, Brexit, it looks like we have a way out. I mean, a way of happening. It looks like there's a roadmap that's been agreed on that 141.30 on the pound. So that's happening. And also it looks like we unlock some of the problems with NAFTA. We're moving in the right direction. It looks like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada got involved and somehow unlocked. The main thing was the content of cars, the country contents in the manufacturing of cars. But it looks like okay. As part of the changes, I said John Bolton, the hawk, a man of hardliner, a new national security advisor. As the news hit the press, the oil went up $2 because of this Iran thing. So we'll be looking at that. The oil's been steady at 60 now. It's almost 66 and change over the week. So clearly, we'll be looking what's going on there. And then finally, just on the back of the Fed moving on rates, we have Libor. Libor a year-end, 3-month Libor a year-end was 1.6%. It's now 2.28. Rapid acceleration of Libor. Some people say it's because the Fed is buying less bonds. Coming along, the rates, short rates going up. But some people are a little bit more worried about that. So we will look into that closely, see if there is anything. And then last one, we have Dropbox, one of the unicorns, came public. Stock was up 40% or almost 50 at some point, 40% from the IPO pricing. Very much watching the market because if you remember the last 3 or 4 unicorn IPOs like Snapchat and Blue Apron has done very, very poorly. So this one did very well. The company, is the one that does storage for everybody. So that's positive, and I think the market will be looking at that. Very few numbers coming this week. We have personal consumption and some others, but nothing very big. A short week in most part of the world because of Easter. So have a happy Easter, happy Passover. Have a great week, and we'll connect the next weekend. Fabio Donetti for Winston Capital Advisors. Have a good day.